Hello, tiny friends. Welcome back. Today I thought I would do some sewing essentials and some accessories. This will be part one because I have so much to do. But I'm going to start off with this little mass-produced set that my daughter gave me. And you can see that there's too much paper on the book. The scissors are extremely large. And I'm going to show you the difference. So I have a few 1/12 scale sizes, and you can see the difference. Those scissors are so big, I will not be using them in the house, but I did have an idea to make them into garden shears or some sort of outdoor tool. So I'm going to save these and put them aside, and I will dirty these up and age them later on down the road. I'm going to switch out these sewing needles as well, but this little basket is so cute. It's a wooden basket. It's full of yarn, and it has all these cuts and nicks in them that you really can't see, but I am going to bring out all that detail with a wash. I began with trimming off the excess paper on this little book. I'm going to give this a wash too, age it up just a little bit. I'm going to do something different with each pair of scissors. I really do like these ones because they open and close. So these are going to make great garden shears or maybe some hedging shears. I'm definitely going to use them for that. Okay, I'm beginning with a pair of silver scissors, and I have a mixture of Mod Podge and black acrylic paint. I like to keep it in this little plastic jar. I'm just going to coat the handle rings on this little pair, and I'm going to give it 2 coats. I'm going to set it aside to dry. I'm taking a toothpick just to clear out the inner ring, just the little holes. I'm going to use black acrylic and an alcohol wash for this little pair. And I'll just take a Q-tip and dab off the excess. For the gold ones, I'm going to do a brown wash, and I'm just using brown acrylic and alcohol. And then I'm going to use my silver chrome pen just to paint the blades on this one. And this was the pair that came with the Chris and Bond set. Now I didn't cover that completely because I do want a little bit of the black to show, just to suggest that they've been well used. I'm using some watered down acrylic to paint on the book, and there's some sort of coating on this sticker paper, so it's going to be just fine with just water and acrylic. I'm just going around the front and the back, around the edges. I'm going to do on the pages and then just wipe off the excess with a Q-tip or my finger, whichever comes first. I am going to just age this a little more on the front cover. I don't want to dirty it up too much. I just want it to look old, like it's been sitting around for a while. Okay, I'm pulling these little sticks out and I'm replacing them with some bead pins, and these are the flat tops that look like little nail heads. So I'm just giving them a wash as well, and then I'll cut them down later. Okay, for this cute little basket, I'm going to use my antique wax, and my brush is pretty wet with water, and I'm just going to brush this over. Now, normally I would let it sit for about a minute, but I'm going to wipe this off right away. And the reason why I'm using the antique wax instead of the acrylic wash is because the antique wax will give you some time where you can just wipe it almost completely off, and then it'll settle right in all those little cuts and nicks and bring out all that detail. And the acrylic wash will almost dry immediately, and I won't be able to really wipe all of it off. So it'll pretty much stain this little wooden bowl. So I'm going to dab it off with the paper towel as much as I can get off with that. And then I'm going to use a wet Q-tip, and I've just wet it with some water, and I'm going to get almost all of this all off. And the only thing that's going to be left is everything that is seeped in and soaked into all those little cuts and nooks and crannies and bring out all that detail. Okay, next I'm cutting the pins down, and I'm using a pair of wire cutters for that. And I'm just dry fitting them right now just to see how I want them to fit in here. But I'm going to use my tacky glue, and I'm just going to put a nice big glob of tacky glue, and then I'm just going to shove them in and tuck them in and hold them in place just for a couple minutes. Okay, so I'm going to make a ball of yarn. And at first I was thinking I was going to use a little styrofoam ball, but then I saw Gretchen on Little Gretchen's workshop use a bead. So I'm going to use this pearl bead, and the bead is one size smaller than the yarn ball I want to create. So I started with just a little bit of tacky glue on the end of this string, and this is just embroidery string, and this keeps it from unraveling. I'm going to put a little bit of glue in the hole of the bead, and this nozzle actually fits all the way through the bead, but I'm just going to fill it with glue. I'm going to lay the string flat over it like that, take a bead pin and just poke it in, just shove it in there. This way it won't go anywhere, it'll stay put. To begin with, I'm going to use a little bit of tacky glue to get me started, and I'm going to glue the string down. Now, for something like this, if you do not take your time and be patient, it can get really frustrating because the bead is so small. So you definitely want to add a little bit of glue about every 3 or 4 turns. And I'm turning the bead as I'm wrapping the string around it. And I remember doing this when I was a little girl. I used to roll up my aunt's yarn and my grandma's yarn and make little yarn balls while they were knitting. I would sit on the floor and just roll up little yarn balls, and it just kept me busy, and it just kept me so content. But this could definitely be a little finicky. So I'm just adding some glue about every 3 or 4 wraps. Once you get it going and it's pretty secure, you can just get into the groove of it and begin to wrap a little bit tighter. If you have any string that kind of comes unravel and you're already at a good starting point, don't undo it. Just lay it down and wrap over it. You won't even notice it. So I'm just going to continue to do this until my ball is completely covered, and I'm going to glue down the very end of it. I'm going to leave some hanging, so I'm going to leave a little excess, like as if it rolled out of the little yarn basket and onto the floor. I originally intended to do a whole basket of these, but I'm sure glad I do not have to. So for this little piece of scrap wood, I really wanted to make a yardstick, and I thought that this end piece was a perfect size for that. And this whole piece is almost about 3 inches, which is actually the true size for a 1/12 scale yardstick. So I'm just going to trim off the bigger part of this. I'm using my little hand saw. Once I get this piece cut off, I'm just going to use my nail file to sand it down nice and even, get it nice and smooth. I'm filing this down to about 1/4 of an inch wide. I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to draw a line just a little off the center of the stick. Then I'm going to begin to make some notches, and these are going to be the bigger notches, the bigger lines that you see on a yardstick, and I'm just spacing them out a little bit. I'm going to go in after this and start to fill in those spaces with those tiny little lines, those little measure lines. Now, this isn't really going to be accurate. It's just too small for me to be completely accurate on this and get 3 feet on this, or 3 full inches that will look like 3 feet. So I'm just making some lines just to make it look like a yardstick. I'm not going to put any numbers. I'm just going to leave it as is. I'm going to darken them up a little bit with this fine tip Sharpie marker. And then I'm going to drill a hole in the middle with my hand drill. I'm going to take that fine tip Sharpie and I'm just darkening the holes. So I just colored it in. I'm using my antique wax to stain this yardstick just a little bit. And I know I applied a good amount on there, but you'll see I'll be able to get a lot of it off. I'm using a damp Q-tip. And I just dabbed it on the paper towel. And because I put a good amount on the first stroke, I can just blend this out with the damp Q-tip and just blend it around, spread it out. I'm going to apply what I need as I go along. I'm doing the sides and the back. And you'll see it looks pretty dark now because it's still wet, but when it dries, it'll lighten up a lot. Most of the measurement lines faded away during that process, so I'm just going to go back in and just go over them again with the same Sharpie marker and just bring them back. I'm going to use my metallic antique gold paint by Volgar, and I'm just going to add a little bit of detail at the end where you would see that metal bracket on the end of the yardstick by the hole. Okay, I'm going to take a pause between projects just to show you this little refrigerator that sometimes you may see sitting by my computer. I promised a viewer I would show it in my next video and I almost forgot. So this was something that I found at the thrift store for about $5. My grandson made this little clay guy here, and one of his eyes fell off, but I just glued it to the front of the fridge. It's plastic. It's a little desk organizer. There's a date on the back that says 1987. It was made by Beatland in Japan. And the front of it says American Freezer. It comes with a little pair of scissors. It has a little compartment where you can store your pens and pencils in the back. I'm not sure if these were made for school, for kids, or for adults, but I love it. It's so adorable. When you open it up, it's got all of these refrigerator components that are little school supplies or office supplies. I'm pretty sure I have about everything it came with. I may be missing maybe one piece. This little butter box, it says homemade mild butter, and it's actually a pencil sharpener. It's just super, super cute. The little eggs In the egg holders are erasers, and there's two little egg holders that they sit in. I have seen them in other colors as well. Here's a little ketchup bottle, and I believe it had glue in it. But the cap comes off, and I'll show you what that looks like. It's got a little hole in it, so I'm pretty sure this had glue in it. A little push pin. I think this is like some sort of pumpkin or squash, but it's just a little push pin. And there are a few more vegetable push pins. This little drawer is adjustable. It just extends out. In this basket, we have some celery pens. There's two of them, so cute little celery pens. A few more garden or vegetable push pins, a carrot. There's an onion. There's a couple more in there I'll pull out in a moment. This cornflake box, it's so cute. It actually has little tiny paper clips. Here's a little tray. I'm not really sure what this is for or what this goes to. And I really did have to figure things out when I got this. Here's a little pineapple stapler. I had no idea that all this came in this. I really didn't look at it when I bought it. Here's a couple more push pins. We've got an eggplant and a tomato. Um, I looked in it and saw the pieces and said, okay, I want this. This is some sort of strawberry cake or cheesecake, but it's actually a tape measure. I did not know that there was hidden drawers in here until later on. But we have a hidden drawer here, and it has a little stake in it. And this is actually a magnet. Okay, this little drawer has a couple plastic bookmarkers, and I thought they were stencils, and then I thought they were paper clips. And as I was doing this audio, I realized they are bookmarkers. And then this part comes out as well, and this is actually a tape dispenser. That's the original tape. It doesn't come out. I'm just checking to see, but it does not come out. It's never been used. This is the original tape that it came with. And I believe that is it. So that is it for this cute little desk organizer, the American Freezer by Beetlin from 1987. So if you do see one of these, definitely pick it up. And now you know, if you do come across one of these, you know what it should have inside or how many pieces should be in there. For the most part, I think I saw a mustard bottle. I'm not really sure, but for the most part, it has everything. And I just love this so much. I thought this was so stinking cute when I saw it. I just loved the retro refrigerator. And then the salesman tried to tell me that it was from the 60s or the 50s. And I said, it clearly has a date from the 80s on the back. So he wasn't going to get as much as he probably thought he could. But that is it for that. I'm just going to turn it around one more time to show you. I do want to apologize for Kiwi. She's a little irritated. I am in another room where she is on a small table, and she hasn't been able to come out of her cage for a couple days. So she is very unhappy right now. But now we can go back to the next project of this episode. Okay, tiny friends, so this is the little chair that was broken and I had to glue back together. It went together very well and you can barely notice the broken leg in the back. I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment and mix the elephant chalk paint with the clear wax just to see if I can get the same results as the antique wax. Normally on the foam board, you will get the same results, so I'm going to put it to the test on the chair. I'm not really sure if there's an accurate ratio to this since I eyeball everything, but I do know for sure that you want more wax than paint. I'm just applying it just like I do the antique wax in small sections. I'm going to remove the excess with a Q-tip. So normally I would wait a few minutes and let it tack up a little bit, but I'm doing this right away. While that's drying, I pulled out this canvas fabric that I pulled off of a throw pillow, and I really love the colors and the print on this. I just thought it would be fitting for the Josephine house. And I have those chairs in real life. I know how hard they really are. So I'm going to make a pillow cushion for Margo to sit on. So I cut out a double square length and I'm just going to fit it to the chair to make sure that it's going to work out. I'm going to turn this inside out and I'm going to hand stitch the two sides. So this is what it looks like. It looks pretty good, but I'll know for sure when I flip it inside out. So I'm using my tweezers, I'm pinching the bottom and I'm carefully pulling this out. It does take some time, but normally I pop the stitches on these little pillows when I hand stitch them. And now I'm going in with my stylus with the ball on the end just to poke out those corners and get this fabric out as much as I can. And this is what it looks like. Not too bad. I'm just trying to get as much of this out as possible. So there it is. I'm going to put it horizontally because it fits better that way. And hit it with my clover iron just to flatten it down more. Now, usually I like to use seed beads to fill my little pillows because I love my pillows to have that slouchy look. But I cannot find them, and I know I have a few tubes, I just don't know where they are. So I'm going to use the next best thing, which is rice. And because the rice is so hard, I'm just going to pretend that it's going to be comfortable for Margo. So I filled it about halfway, and this is what it looks like. And I'm just flattening it a little bit. It kind of looks like a little bean bag. So that's going to work. And I've cleaned up the open end and now I'm just tucking it in and flattening it a little more with the iron. Okay, I'm going to tuck in the sides and once I get them tucked in to where I want them, I'm just going to use my tacky glue to glue it closed and pinch it shut. And this is what it looks like. And now I'm just shifting around the rice to flatten it out a little more and shape it up. And it looks pretty good. So to finish it off, I'm going to use some embroidery string to cover up the seams And I'm just placing a bead of tacky glue right in the center of the seam, a little bit on the end of the string to keep it from unraveling, and I'm just going to lay it right in the middle of that seam to finish off the pillow, give it a little more detail, and cover up that seam so you don't see where I glued it shut. I'm doing one side at a time, and this is what it looks like. So it is a little uneven and misshapen, but that's okay because that says it's been well used and it may be pretty old. Now going back to the chair, it's nice and dry, and I'm going to use a black acrylic and water wash to age it up a little more. And I am applying a generous amount, but I am going to dab some of this off with a paper towel. So I'm lightly dabbing it off because I don't want to remove all of it, but this is just going to give it some more aged detail. Okay, so I lost the footage that I really wanted you to see, and that was how uh, this detail really begins to pop out. I really wanted you to see that transformation, but I'm using my dry brush. I'm adding some highlights with a dark gray and white acrylic mix to make a light gray, and I just lightly brushed it over the top and the middle section and the bottom. I am going to do the whole chair though. Uh, but once you add the highlighting detail, those engraved details in the chair just pop right out like magic. So I'm going to add this around the whole chair, just a little bit. My brush is really, really dry. There's hardly any paint on it at all. But this just gives that added detail and completes this finished look of the age. I really love how the black has settled in around the support bars, and you can see that black shadow where it would normally accumulate and age there. So I'm just going to brush this right around the whole chair and bring out some more of those details. I'm really bummed out that I lost that footage because that was my favorite part, and I just really wanted to show you how the detail just magically appears when you add this highlighting. And this will be the final step to this chair. This is what it's looking like now that it's all dried and finished. Around the back, I just focused more so on the midsection. I didn't go all the way to the ends. Just looks a little worn down, a little more in that section. Okay, so the chair is finished. I added a little bit of fabric tack on the bottom of this pillow, and I'm just gonna tack it down into place just so I don't lose it and it doesn't move around. And she'll be using this chair for the sewing machine. So that is it for today's video, tiny friends. I really hope you enjoyed it. If so, let me know in the comments what you thought. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click that like button. Thank you all for watching and subscribing. If you would like to see more, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget that top bell notification button to be notified every time I upload a new project. I'll be back with another Temu haul and show you some of the new things that I got and um, another episode of sewing essentials. I just have so much to do. So here is all the finished little pieces that I made today. I really love the yardstick. You could see all the detail pop out in that basket. So until next time, tiny friends, you all have a lovely day, and I will see you all on the mini side. Bye-bye.